In this video, I'm going to take you through how to do a multi-track recording using Reaper. I did one a while ago using Tracks Live, but Reaper's now the DAW that I use on a regular basis, and is since Tracks Live is no longer supported, it's made sense to try and do it this way. I'll split the video into two halves. The first half of it is the preparation that I'm going to do in Reaper, which I can do at home. Doesn't need the desk in order to be able to do it. I can show you how to do all the preparation and setting up a template in Reaper to do the work, and then we'll take that to the desk and connect it up and do the recording. It needs you to have done some settings on the desk already, or to have done them in MixPad offline. You'll see that in a moment when I get to load up the details in MixPad. Right, so let's look at that first. So this is the Windows MixPad I'm running on my laptop. I'm not connected to anything, so run it in offline mode. Go and load the show file that I'd saved from the desk onto a USB drive. So I'll load that in. Go and load the scene that I'm going to use as the basis for my multi-track recording. Now I'm just going to use an example one from a Sunday morning. It's got more input channels than I need for the demo, but it's a simple way to give you an idea. So if I quickly look at what we're working with, we've got 3 vocals, guitar, keys, bass and drum overheads. I'm not going to map all of those for the purposes of this demo. Just so you can see what they're mapped to, if I drag that down. So vocal 1 is S-Link 1, which is stage box channel 1. Vocal 2 is stage box channel 2, and vocals 3 is stage box channel 3. Guitar is on 5. Keyboard is a stereo input, so that's channels 7 and 8. And I'm not going to worry about the rest. We're not going to go that far for the purposes of this. What I do need to look at is how those are going to map to USB channels. There are 2 areas that you do this in. I typically work with tie lines. I find that they work best for the way I like to use the multi-track outputs. They are direct from after the preamp, so you get an unprocessed input signal. So there's no EQ, compression or anything like that that's applied to it. If you want that, then you can use direct outputs. They're another way of doing it, and they give you the ability to choose the point that you get the feed out to USB, but I don't tend to bother with those. I don't need them for what I'm doing. On our USB, then the first thing is we've got a couple of output mixes that are mapped. So go to mix out and go to USB on the top here. You'll be able to see, if I scroll down, channels 1 and 2 are mapped to this stream matrix, which is the output to our live stream for broadcasting. Do this because quite often when I'm recording on a Sunday morning, I actually want the final processed output as well. So I've mapped that. There's also one of the groups that's used in that process as well. The things we're interested in for the purpose of this though are the stage box. So go to tie lines, choose S-Link because it's the stage box we're interested in, and then across the top what we're mapping it to is USB. Now, as I said earlier, I've already done this. We've already got those channels mapped. If you haven't got them mapped, you would need to go through and do this. So because channels 1 and 2 are already used by the final output mix, I've then mapped channels 3 onwards to the stage box channel. So S-Link 1, which is our first vocal input, is USB 3. You basically just look at your S-Link channel number and add 2, and that gives you them. So you've got vocals are there, guitar was on 5, so that's USB 7. The keyboard was on 7 and 8, so that's 9 and 10. And if you're not sure, you'll think you don't have the names there, unfortunately, but you can go back to here and say, oh yeah, S-Link 7 and 8, that's my keys. So I go back to there, 7 and 8, that's these 2 here, so that's 9 and 10. So that gives you your mappings then. And you need those because when you go into Reaper, you need to tell it what USB channels you want to map to the tracks that you're going to record. So let's go to Reaper now. I'll switch over to that. So I'm going to start with a blank screen and talk through how you set up the tracks for mapping and recording, but I'll also show you a pre-defined template that I've already used, and I typically use and have done on for a Sunday morning service. So let's add some tracks in first. And we're going to do 2 vocals, keys and guitar for the purposes of this. If I was doing it for real, I can colour them and add icons and all sorts, which you'll see in my full template, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. I will give them a name. So I don't know who the musicians are in this case, so I'm just going to give them a generic name. If you know who your musicians are, it's worth giving them a proper name because it makes things life a lot easier later. So Vox 1, Vox 2, guitar and keys, they're set. Now I need to tell Reaper where the input source for each of these tracks is, and ultimately if we're going to do a virtual sound tag or something, I need to select where to send them to. And the way I do that is through the routing matrix. Before I can do that, because I'm not actually connected to the desk, I don't have all the channels available on my device. So what I need to do is I need to set it up so that Reaper thinks it's got lots of audio channels to work with. So I go to Preferences, go down to Audio Device. Now at the moment this is set to use my local audio interface, which has got 2 channels, which is not going to work for routing. I'm in Windows, so what I do is I go to Direct Sound and I can tell it how many input channels it's going to work with. Now it doesn't really got 12 input channels. You can have 12, 32, 64, whatever you want. Because I don't have those physically available, they won't work for recording, but it will allow me to do the routing. So I've said 12, that's enough for what I need to do right now. Say OK. Then if I go to the View menu and view the routing matrix, and I bring that up, it's now got my 4 tracks. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the left there, 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Down here are the input sources from that. So that's, if I record, that's where it'll get their sound from. So Vox 1, that needs to come from USB channel 3. So if I pick that there, Vox 2 needs to come from 4. Guitar was 7, so go down and find that. Now keys is a stereo channel, so that's the second set here are actually stereos. So you pick the lower number 1. So that was it's stage box 7 and 8, so that's USB 9 and 10. So if I pick 9, that'll give me stereo 9 and 10. So that's my input sources. When I'm setting the template up, I typically would also map the same for output, so that when I do a playback later on for a virtual sound check or something, it'll send them to the same target output channels. It's easy to do it right now. So 3, 4, guitar goes to 7, and keyboard goes to stereo 9 and 10. There we go. So that's my routing done. I can't test that until I'm connected to the desk, but based on the routing I looked at in MixPad and setting this up, I'm reasonably confident that should work. So I can now close that. What I'll also do is arm the channels for recording, because when I get there, I want the template to be ready to go. So if I click and drag, they're all armed. You can see here, these are saying the source inputs they're going to come from. That's great. So actually that's my template now ready. So I could create a project from it directly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a project template so that I can reuse it. So if I save it as a template and give it a name, the template means I can reuse it multiple times. So if I'm doing multiple takes and I want to create a new project each time, or I know I'm going to record with the same setup more than once, I can reuse it. It's quite a convenient way of doing it. If I close it and then go back to File, Project Templates, there's my recording demo. The one I just saved, I load it up and it's now created a new project based on that template with those tracks all preset for me. To give you an idea of a more comprehensive one, if I go to Project Templates and look at my Sunday Service one, this is similar, only I've done a bit more work in doing colours and names and icons and so on. But basically you've got Vox 1 to 3, keys, guitar, bass, the drum overheads, room mics, I've also got a channel that's the stereo stream output, the stream matrix, and the stream group, and I've got one for the Mac Mini, and I've got those then for the handheld and lapel mics that we use. I don't necessarily use all of those every time, but they are the most likely ones that I want to use, so I can create a project quite quickly on a Sunday morning to record the service if I want to, with minimal amount of work, knowing that the desk I/O and the Reaper routing are all set. If I look at the routing on this one, then you can see this goes too far. I didn't give enough channels, but you can see the principle. You've got your vocals, guitar, there's just keyboard, and so on. They're all already set in the routing. That's all ready for me to use when I get to the desk. So that's Reaper set up, and the next thing to do will be to actually go into church, to the desk, and connect it all up, which I'll do in the second half. I've now moved into church, and I'm going to do the second part with my laptop connected to the desk. So I've plugged that in using USB cable into the back of the desk, and that's ready with Reaper loaded. I've got a scene that I've set up that's a simplified version of what I was showing you earlier. I've now just got 2 vocals, guitar and keys from the scene we were looking at before. I've preloaded that on, so that's set, and that will allow me just to concentrate on those while I'm on the desk. I will then go through the desk settings a little bit, so show you what's important and what you need to know on the desk, and then we'll go on and try and do a simple multi-track recording. I don't have a band with me today, so I will simulate that myself, but it'll give you an idea of what you can do. So first off, the desk. So my scenes here, I've got the processing strip shown. The only thing that's important as part of this is the gain. That's the only thing that's going to affect my recording. So I've actually booted the gain on these from what I would normally use, just for demo purposes. If you were doing a recording service, obviously the desk would be set up as it would be for the service or whatever else, and you would just take the feed directly off that. So the other things you need to look at, I/O we covered a little bit earlier, but I'll just go over that again quickly on the desk. So it's the same settings as I looked at in MixPad. If you go to I/O, go to tie lines and USB for the stage box S-Link, you can see S-Link 1, stage box channel 1 is USB 3 and 2 is 4, etc. So you just add 2 as I did in the earlier part. The outputs are still there as well, so mix out to USB. We've got our stream matrix that's feeding off that, and then over there's a group as well. The things you need to be wary of on the setup for the desk, you need to make sure if you go to audio and USB, that needs to be set to USB-B on the mode. So there are 2 options, USB-B and SQ drive. It must be on USB-B if you're recording to a laptop or a separate device like that. If you want to record to directly to a USB drive plugged into the top of the desk, then you'd select SQ drive. I don't tend to record that way. I prefer to go to a laptop. You can also change the sample rate. So on there you've got 2 options of 48 or 96. Just gives you a higher rate of sampling and much larger output files, of course, when you're recording. 48 I found more than adequate for what we do. So those are the settings that you need to be looking at. The other thing that's useful to look at on the desk is the meter section. If I go to meters and you look down the left, you've got one called USB meters. That will show you at a glance on a single page all of the USB inputs and outputs. So for today's session, I'm not worried about inputs because that's for something like a virtual sound check. What I am looking at is the outputs. These will correspond here, 1 to 32, 16 top, 16 on the bottom, to the I/O mappings that we've set up in the I/O section. So USB channel 1 is the stream matrix left and 2 is the right, and then we've got USB 3 onwards are our stage box, so 1, 2, 3, etc. So for the recording we're going to be doing now, stage box channel 1 will be vocal mic 1, that's that one there. Stage box channel 2 will be that one there. I've got guitar on 5 and I've got a keyboard in 7 and 8. So we'll leave that there and you'll be able to see that while I'm doing the recording. So that's the desk, that's set and ready. And if I move over to Reaper now, in Reaper I've got it with a blank project again. What I'll do is I'm going to go and load the template that I created earlier. So go to Project Templates and Recording Demo. So this is the template I set up before. So we've got our 2 vocal channels, a guitar and keys, as mirrors what's now on the desk. Arms for recording. At this point now I'm here, if I know who the band are, I will probably name the channels with the musician's name on them, because that helps to when you're remembering them later on. What I will do as well is I'll save this before I start recording, because then it always saves everything into the folder that I've created. So I'm going to create a new folder and save that, so that's now ready. That's ready to record from there. What I do need to do is check the audio options to make sure that I'm connected to the desk. So we go to options, preferences, make sure I'm on audio device again. This is set to direct sound, which is what I was using earlier. You can record using direct sound on Windows, that will work, and actually it's quite a useful tool if you want to monitor it. If you have direct sound set and you set it to 2 output channels, what it will do is you will hear what's coming in through USB, and you can listen to it over the local from the speakers, or you can plug in headphones into the laptop and hear it that way. I find that quite useful occasionally for monitoring. What I want to do though is I'm going to just record, so I'll change to the ASIO driver. I've got the SQ6 driver installed, which you can download from the Alan Heath website. That's set, and I've told it to allow all 32 channels, which is the maximum that it can do. So 32 in, 32 out. So that will just allow me to map those in Reaper. So if I click OK, that's now set to record. In fact, if you look at the little meters here in Reaper, when I'm talking, it's just registering a bit of level, which is coming in from the 2 vocal mics that are at the front of church. So it's just picking me up. Okay, so that's ready to record. The desk is ready to record, so I'm going to hit the record button there. I'll just change the zoom on that so it can be visible. And I'm going to walk down the front, and I will check out each channel so you can see it recording. I'm now at the front of church and in the band section. And this is vocal mic number 1, so first box 1 on channel 1 in Reaper, so you should see a signal coming through on the first track. If I move over to the second vocal mic, then that will be coming through on the second channel on the desk, and then into Reaper on the second track. Those are easy because I can just speak into those. For the guitar, what I've done is I've got a pre-recorded guitar track, which I did on a different multi-track recording session, and I'm playing that back through an MP3 player into the guitar DI box. It just means I can still use the same channels that I would do normally. So I'll turn it on and get that playing. So you'll now be getting a guitar coming through on the third track. That will be coming into Reaper, so you'll be able to see that. Let that play for a few seconds and stop that. And then what I'll do is on the keyboard I've got a demo, so I'll just use the keyboard demo and let the keyboard demo play for a few seconds so you can get a bit of the keys. That's coming on track 4 in Reaper. That's a stereo channel that's mapped to 7 and 8 on the desk, so you're getting the left and right coming into Reaper. I was quite happy to do that, so let that play for a few seconds and stop. I'm now back at my laptop and Reaper is still recording, so I'm going to stop the recording and it's going to ask me to save. So yep, I want to save all those. So it saved the 4 tracks to 4 separate files, and you can see now on my Reaper display I've got a bit of signal there on vocal mic 1 when I've spoken to it, a bit of signal there on vocal mic 2, got on guitar and on keyboards. If I then go over and change to the direct sound driver and just change it to 2 outputs and make sure I've got my volume up a bit, I can play back a bit of those. Band section, this is vocal mic number 1, so first box 1 on channel 1. Okay. Then that will be coming through on the second channel on the desk and then into Reaper on the second track. That's number 2. Guitar and keys. And that's it. I've now got a multi-track recording, so I can then do whatever I want with that in Reaper. I could mix it, or I could come back another time and do a virtual sound check with it, which I'll cover in another session.